So today I am back with another video about not just toxic things I hate about the art community, but the problematic things I hate about the art community. So before we get into that, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already seen the previous video, Toxic Things I Hate About the Art Community, and then proceeded on to make a video called The Ugly Truth About Drawing Pretty Girls, let me just tell you, I have been guilty of probably partaking in some of these when I was younger, or just not really aware about my art styles, and we're kind of going to be relearning the same lessons as other professional artists out there that maybe made the same mistakes when we were younger. But if you are somebody who would like to quickly address some of your mistakes or flaws and would like to receive feedback on your art or your portfolio, consider joining us on our exclusive Patreon community where I do email consultations for anybody who is interested. Note that there are only around 13 slots available, so by the time you're watching this, they may or may not be fully filled, but if you do see an empty space, grab it while you can. Talking about feedback, that's actually the first thing I'd like to talk about in the problematic things about the art community, which I noticed immediately after I made videos talking about my personal thoughts on people who only choose to draw pretty girls as like the only thing that they do, but like nothing else. I noticed that there are some artists out there who just are not able to take feedback to grow, or when presented with a suggestion or a tip to grow, especially for those who are interested in breaking into the art industries, they get really defensive and are very stubborn to change. But while there is such thing as unsolicited advice, there is also a time for constructive criticism, especially for those who are eager to turn their art into careers and want to learn from professionals. And unfortunately, if you're not going to take the advice or even listen to it, I feel like it's ultimately a waste of time on both you and the critiquers. While it is sometimes annoying to have to appeal to an industry, I do feel like at the end of the day, their words are worth listening to as they have had more experience and know what it takes to get in. And if it's going to be easier for you to just listen and address some of those changes that they suggest, that could be a lot easier for you than just spending years of trying to figure it out. If you keep pushing away advice and don't try some of them, then your art might not take you anywhere career-wise. And another thing is that usually when it comes to YouTube videos and artists who are professionals sharing their experiences and advice, usually it is them just saying it for anybody who is interested to hear. But I also feel like it's not an excuse to suddenly start bullying or attacking or harassing people online with like words or whatever, which sometimes they don't even know that they're commenting on the video of somebody who has the potential of hiring them someday, and with that they could potentially be burning a bridge. So watch what you say even on the internet. And sadly, the artists who either get really defensive or start attacking people for just giving them constructive criticism are the ones that really either want to break into the industry or make something out of their art. But unfortunately, because their attitude towards that is not the best, it will just at least slow down their progress. But I believe that anybody is capable of change, and we've all been through a place like that where we're really stubborn to want to change and grow, but you kind of have to go through that motion before accepting like, all right, I'm gonna try to experiment and try something new and see where that takes me. And usually that might expedite your progress into landing on a project or an art career of your choice. So then the next problematic thing I hate about the art community, and this is not really just solely for the art community, this is an internet problem. This is a societal problem. This is an everywhere problem. But I still notice it a lot in the art community as well, and that is saying a lot of irrelevant and inappropriate comments about artists, especially women. However, the way that I notice it happens in the art industries / communities is usually when there's an artist who is a woman that is sharing their work online and they also show their face. They usually receive a lot of comments or either criticism or a lot of inappropriate remarks about their appearance, whether if they're attractive or not. Like, that is something that has to matter. So I'll just use one of my personal experiences as an example, and one of the comments I received a long time ago, which I actually eventually documented in my Doodlebish's book, which you can check on my Etsy shop if you're interested in supporting a small business run by a woman, which is myself. The comment made was,
"Art is not a real job. You being an attractive young Asian girl definitely helps with income. Everyone knows that men would rather simp for female artists despite the other 100 male artists as good as her. Pick a real job. Don't chase art as a career."
So yeah, that was one of my personal comments that I have received, and I decided to just, immortalize it in the form of a book so that anytime I achieve the next best thing in my career, I can just look back at that comment and be like, yep. There were other times where I would try to do a live on Instagram, and then people would come in and start making comments very inappropriately about eggplants and water droplets. And it really reminded me as to why Instagram sucks as a live streaming platform, because there's absolutely no moderation there. So the thing that I ultimately find really sad about this is that I feel like a lot of artists are already very reluctant about showing their faces. This is not something artists like doing to begin with. That's why they just share their art and not themselves, but especially in this day and age where social media and industries are rapidly growing and changing, where showing your face might be somewhat more of a requirement to develop like some sort of bond with your audience, to grow your business or your brand. I feel like it's something a lot of artists are trying to work up to be able to do, especially a lot of women or female artists. But because of these forms of verbal online harassment, it really wants people to just retract and go back to just not even showing themselves, which I feel like is just, we're regressing then. Unfortunately, if we're going to be a society that's going to keep pushing artists to keep hiding themselves behind their artwork and not be recognized as a person or a human, this is like all the more reason why things like AI art or people easily replacing artists, taking advantage of artists, or not really fully recognizing artists as humans is just gonna be more encouraged, unfortunately. So if you would like to even hear more about this topic, Adam Duff actually made a video about this, and I highly encourage you watch it. So then the next problematic thing is people who gatekeep art styles from artists, as if artists are not allowed to try another art style because it already exists and is owned by somebody else. So don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging people to steal. That is completely different from what I'm trying to say. I am just saying that if you are somebody who is influenced by an artist and you're taking inspiration from them to create your own work, that should be allowed for you to do. However, I feel like we're in a day and age now where people are really overprotective of their favorite artists' styles, and they're like saying that nobody else is allowed to draw like this person because that's stealing, even if the other person just made it purely out of observation and is trying to find a way to merge it into their own original style. We've all done that with our own art styles, our own paintings, illustrations. And if you want to learn more about what I think about how to find your art style or how to find where your art style might thrive the best, please check out my previous video about art styles. But regarding this topic about gatekeeping art styles, it ultimately is going to really limit and hinder a lot of young artists from growing, exploring, and being better artists if people keep telling them that they're not allowed to draw in this art style. Usually I see a lot of remarks like this being made on Twitter or on Instagram sometimes, but I would say really more on Twitter than anywhere else. That's one of the many reasons why I deleted my Twitter long ago. Is just I feel like Twitter's not the greatest place for the art community to exist. And I feel like there's still this glorification of things being original when really there's nothing that's really original. Maybe the only form of originality is your version of how you merge many things together. But I don't think that we should be focusing on being original. I think that we should be focusing on growth and change. So the next problematic thing about the art community, and this one might most likely exist within your physical realm. So if you're an art student or you go to an art class, you might be surrounded by peers who do this, but I will say don't fall into this trap and don't follow people just because they do these things and you think that if they do it, it's like a glorified form of a lifestyle when it's not. And that is glorifying unhealthy lifestyles as an artist. And I feel like this is most prevalent during your art school, art student days, which, you know, I understand that during your times in school, that's when you're really trying to do your best. However, I don't think that it's good to really normalize this type of lifestyle as what is required to do your best. So again, I will tread this subject lightly because I will say that there are a lot of people who fall into certain unhealthy habits because of things like mental health and personal reasons out of their control. However, I also think that we should still be encouraging people to not be overworking themselves to death, that they have to sacrifice their livelihood, their hygiene, their diet, their physical exercise, or their sleep just for the sake of creating art. I feel like as an artist, you need to eventually learn to respect your body's limitations so that if you want to continue to live your life and keep creating art consistently for the long run, you have to find ways to eventually stop certain unhealthy habits that you find yourself constantly falling into the traps of. And one of the reasons why it's really important to take care of yourself is you just never want to come across a situation where you have to pay a really hefty medical bill or you don't have health insurance. And it might be tough enough as it is already as an artist if you are not in a union or if you're a freelancer and you don't currently have insurance, and you're compounding years of not taking care of yourself eventually led to a certain medical condition or emergency. You just don't want to be in a position where you now have to make this really drastic or dramatic big financial cost, which will then further serve as a distraction from you being able to pursue your goals and your dreams as an artist. So this is a lot easier said than done, and this will of course have to be for another video in the future, but finding ways to manage your stress, regulate your sleep better, exercise more consistently, eating healthier, and taking time to live your life and be away from your art is just super important to just honor yourself as a human being and go out and live your life and don't trap yourself to your desk all day. So then the last thing, at least for this video, and then maybe if people enjoy videos like this, I'll make another one, which is people bullying younger or less experienced artists for making tutorials, tips, or providing art advice. So I can see why people, first of all, just wouldn't really take advice or suggestions from a younger, less experienced artist whose works doesn't really reflect, that of a professional's, or just doesn't have a fleshed out style, understanding of anatomy, or just understanding of foundations. Like, I understand why people wouldn't take advice like that. However, I don't think that that should eventually lead to things like bullying. Like, I remember seeing this video about this artists who just shared their art online and just showed their progress, and people just bullied them for just sharing that. At the end of the day, people are allowed to share their progress. People are allowed to show how they made things, because honestly, if a professional artist looks at something like this of a more inexperienced artist, their first thought is usually not to go out and attack or bully somebody, but they might just, pass by the video and just not really think much of it. At least that's what I would think as an artist. There are still going to be artists out there who are at level 0, who have no idea how to get started, and maybe they did like something about this amateur artist's artwork. And I also feel like we're just in a society that is constantly trying to push people to just automatically be really good at a certain task or skill upon beginning learning how to do it, when really it's like, no, when you start to learn things, you all have to start from somewhere. And even if you don't learn it the right way initially, at least you got started. I'm sure there are a lot of internet bullies out there who say things, but they're the ones who actually don't ever get started or try, and that's why they're spending their time on the internet bullying others. So even if a young amateur artist shares their progress, their tips, or their advice online, while it might not be the most beneficial for professionals who have already been doing art for years and years, there's still somebody out there who is starting from absolutely zero, and maybe they saw something about this young artist's work that they liked, and maybe they like that, hey, this is another young artist, this is someone my age, this is someone I could form a community with, and they at least are now motivated to get started. And for me, this is kind of like working out and exercising. A lot of people get intimidated by the idea of working out, exercising, because they think they have to automatically get the form right or know how to do certain moves right immediately upon starting. However, the truth is, when you start exercising, you're probably going to be doing a lot of the poses wrong. You're probably not going to be doing certain things right, and it's okay to just accept that. But the important thing is that you got into the mentality of just starting. And there's so many people in this world who just don't start, and if there's an amateur artist out there who shares what they know and what they have learned thus far, and that gets somebody else to start, and who knows what the future of that person could be. And you know, for myself as an artist that has never taken part in the publishing world before and hasn't even gone to school specifically for making comics or publishing, I feel like having other more experienced artists out there really be encouraging and supportive of me allowed me to eventually make comics like MEESH. There are debut projects for a reason. There are debut graphic novel artists, authors, directors. It's exciting to see where somebody is starting off from, to just think about and wonder where they will be later. But if you deny that person of even starting, then you just, I don't know, killed off somebody's dream. So good for you then, I guess. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, if you would like to join our Patreon community for things like email consultations, behind the scenes, and early access, feel free to join it down in the links below. And if you would like to read MEESH the Bad Demon, that is also available in bookstores near you and in the links below as well. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found this one helpful, even though it was also, again, on the ranty side, but at least I can spend some time being my more honest and raw self. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.